Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi was in Australia recently, and the media coverage that he got was unprecedented. Not just because he is the leader of the world's largest democracy, but also because he managed to gather a massive cheering crowd of 20,000 people in Sydney's Qudos Bank Arena. His every move was eagerly captured by the local media. The coverage was all positive, especially by television media. Almost all channels were present at the Qudos Bank Arena before PM Modi's address started, and the event was being referred to as Modi Mania by the Australian press. PM Modi, like all world leaders, also got some negative press coverage. But we will first have a look at this.
From Little India at Harris Park to a bumper crowd at Olympic Park, much of Sydney is caught up in Modi Mania tonight as we welcome the leader of the most populous nation on earth.
Oh, this is what they mean by Modi Mania. We have around 20,000 people here filling up the Qudos Bank Arena, some who've travelled from around Australia and even New Zealand to be here. Narendra Modi arriving here at Olympic Park, here inside the arena shortly. Now, he will be introduced tonight by Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, a sign of the significance not just of this event, but of the growing importance of the relationship between the two nations as Australia seeks deeper economic and security ties with the emerging global superpower.
The emerging global superpower, the world's largest democracy. All of these adjectives were used to describe India and the importance of this visit by PM Modi. Now, watch this coverage by Australia's 9 News.
Just another visiting politician. Think again. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi leads the world's biggest democracy and creates the kind of fervour other pollies can only dream about. Moving through the crowd, you picked up a reoccurring belief. Modi had made them proud to be Indian. And welcome to the main stage area here at the centre of Qudos Bank Arena. In just a short while, maybe 20 minutes or so, the Prime Minister will make his way up there and address the crowd. And what a crowd it is. Take a look at this. They've been here for 2-3 hours, many of these people. They've been entertained on stage by Bollywood dancers, Indian folk dancers. It's been an extraordinary party atmosphere. But as I say, in about 20 minutes, Prime Minister Modi will walk in here to an enormous cheer, and he will talk to the fact that India is now a global superpower, and that's exactly what this crowd wants to hear.
And the media was in awe of Prime Minister Modi's popularity once the event started. The coverage became even more exciting when Modi's address ended. Have a look at how Australia's 7 News responded to the event.
Well, moving on to news here and a very big show in Sydney tonight. Rarely do Prime Ministers attract this level of fanfare. The leader of India tonight speaking at a packed stadium with our Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. Let's take you live to Amy Clements in Sydney. Amy, this was quite a turnout. How many people were there for Mr Modi?
Michael, 20,000 people gave Narendra Modi a rock star welcome. The crowds went wild. Anthony Albanese joking that even Bruce Springsteen didn't receive a reception quite like this. The stadium show was sold out and people did whatever they could to get there. There was the Modi Express bus, which came from Brisbane, and even a Modi Airways charter plane, which carried superfans from Melbourne. But here tonight in Harris Park, where I am in Sydney's western suburbs, his visit carries an extra special meaning because for years they've been fighting to change the name of their main hub to Little India, and today Modi made that official when he unveiled the foundation stone.
And this is the coverage from 9 News. They even roped in Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese to report the grandeur of the event.
Well, Sydney's West was abuzz with celebration last night. A sold-out crowd of 20,000 gathering at Qudos Bank Arena. And it wasn't for a concert, was it, Carl?
It was vibe on. Instead, it was for the Indian Prime Minister addressing the Indian-Australian community ahead of bilateral talks with our leaders today. The PM was all amongst it and all over it and joins us now from Sydney. PM, good morning to you. What a rock star is he, your new boss?
Well, it was pretty extraordinary welcome. last night. The boss, Bruce Springsteen, of course, I've seen him play there. And the difference is, I guess, that people were there chanting for Narendra Modi 12 hours in advance of the gig last night. It was a very warm welcome. The energy in the room was quite extraordinary. And it was a great thing for Australia to welcome Narendra Modi to Australia. India and Australia have a close relationship. We're both Indian Ocean countries, and of course India is going to grow to be the third largest economy in the world. It's already the most populous country, and we've seen over the recent decade in particular a lifting of so many hundreds of millions of people getting access to energy for the first time, seeing them benefit from the enormous economic growth. It is an economic miracle what has happened in India over recent times, and that's a very good thing.
And now let's shift our attention to the negative press coverage. Of course, since PM Modi was in Australia, the issue of Khalistan was given to show up, and it did. A small group of pro-Khalistani extremists who want to carve out a separate state for Sikhs in North India staged protests at Qudos Bank Arena. And here is how Australia's ABC News covered it.
Not everyone. His party, the BJP, has been accused of targeting religious minorities and restricting press freedoms, while Mr Modi has often failed to condemn violence from his supporters. Elements of India's Sikh and Muslim communities are deeply opposed to the Prime Minister.
You would celebrate a celebrity, but not a tyrant, a regime which is fascist regime. This particular person, Mr. Narendra Modi, has got blood on his hands, and I don't know how he's took the courage to come to Australia, the land of the free.
However, negative coverage from Australia's newspapers was way more critical and harsh. For example, this scathing article against Prime Minister Modi appeared in Sydney Morning Herald. The newspaper wrote that PM Modi's address at Bank Arena was a political event meant for the Indian audience, and the Australian Prime Minister walked directly into this trap. Then the newspaper asked one hitting question: how dare Prime Minister Modi make suggestions on Australia's internal affairs? Here is what the paper wrote. Australia was not setting the terms. Modi, meanwhile, was unafraid to make suggestions on internal Australian affairs, gaining Albanese's consent to take strict actions against anyone attacking Hindu temples in Australia. Well, this was quite loaded. What the paper wrote further may sound outrageous to some. On the one hand, Australia is silent on India's persecution of ethnic minorities, its imprisonment of human rights activists, the prospective jailing of the leader of the largest opposition party, its global leadership in internet shutdowns, and its targeted political censorship, amid a long list of anti-democratic activities listed by Human Rights Watch and other organizations, not to mention its neutrality on Putin's war in Ukraine. On the other hand, the boss can raise the graffiting of temples and receive warm reassurances that we will do better. This section of elite media believes that while the West can preach India on human rights and lessons on democracy, India should not, in fact must not, reciprocate. They are yet to realize the changing equation between India and the West. They still cannot stomach the fact that India no longer believes in pleasing the Western Bloc, and that's why we still see such scathing attacks on India and its leaders by a section of English media.